Okay, I'm looking at the Amelia's boiler here and the base, and I want to really kind of determine what needs to be replaced and what doesn't need to be replaced. Just to kind of, I'm going to, I use this semichrome. This is what um, Orphan Espresso uses, and I actually like it quite a bit. I've used it without any difficulty, just to kind of clean up the boiler, kind of check the condition. The biggest thing you don't want to have with a boiler is pinholes in the boiler, and that can happen if you're using a certain kind of water, and it a bad water, and the minerals destroy the boiler. I haven't seen that in this one at all, so I'm just going to try to clean up the chrome here a little bit on the side that you can see, and then see there is a lot of coffee residue left on this machine, and frankly, it appears like it's rust, but you and I know that it's not rust because this boiler is brass. The element is copper, but the boiler is brass and it's chrome plated. And if you look at that, gosh, this is from the 90s. So this is well over 20 years old, 20, 25, 30 years old. And look how that chrome is cleaned up. Actually, I like that a lot. Even like this one, looks like this is rust. I know it's not because I know this part is brass. And so it's chrome plated. So it's either one of two things. It's either the brass showing through the machine, through the chrome finish, or it's coffee residue. And what you do is you cross your fingers and hope that it's only coffee residue. And in this case, everything that I've seen on this machine, except for a few minor things, is coffee residue. And so if you clean this part up, now what this part is, it's really hard coming off with just the chrome polish. So what I use is this 3M. I've been noticing this white pad. There's actually two versions. One's they call an aircraft version, and then this is a regular polishing version. The aircraft version is actually much milder than this. I only have the polishing version, which is fine for this kind of thing. And I use this on the chrome without any difficulty. It does not destroy the chrome. It's the white Scotch Brite made by 3M pads that I would highly recommend everybody buying to use on their machines. But don't use the red or the green or the brown, the gray. I'm sorry, there is no brown, and because that will scuff up your finish. Where this is it's like a fine, very fine steel wool, but it's plastic or nylon, so it does not have the same kind of residue that steel wool has left on it. You can see I've got quite a bit of that off already. There's a considerable amount of buildup on these coffee residue that I'm either going to maybe have to hand scrape or just be patient with, or do something to let it soak and make it, soften it up so that I can take it off with the Scotch Brite, the 3M white Scotch Brite pads. So I'm going to leave that one on there. This is really looking good. The big question is what's going to happen with this base. This base has rust underneath the drip tray, which is very common. It has, I'm not going to tip this over because I've got the solution in it now. It's got rust down here, which you might be able to see. It's got rust underneath. Rust underneath doesn't bother me. It's pretty common. And there are ways to deal with that. But how you deal with the rust on top and how you deal with the rust here. Do I spend any time at all trying to polish this up and figure this out? Or is this rust so bad down here that the owners actually want to just replace it with a new base, which is not cheap. They're well over $100, and that's just the part itself. But if you're going to this much extent to try to restore a machine, you probably want to do it. And then do you also want to put on a new plastic base, or do you only use? Well, you can't use the old, if you put a new base on, you can't use the old metal underbody. So you have to use a plastic underbody on these. I'm not really a big fan of those, but that's what they make for these. I'd rather have a silicon base, and maybe someday Tudor will develop one, and everybody will be able to buy it. Even like the group hit here, it looks like it has rust on it, but I know this is not rust. So is this just, how much of this is the chrome that's been scraped off over time? This almost feels like it's chrome. Not sure. The brass underneath the chrome. And so all I can do is really kind of polish it up. I do have a little small buffer I can put on my Dremel to do some of these things to kind of make them less labor intensive. But I assume that there's really not going to be any, this is just all coffee residue. It's going to be a big part of this machine. So we'll have to look at is, do we replace the base? And then are we, obviously I've got to take the boiler off and, do all that kind of cleaning underneath to make sure that everything, gets put back together correctly with the right gaskets and the like. Then we have a nice clean base. Do we use the old emblem here? I don't think this one comes off. I'll have to see. I know the pressure stat, I'm just assuming we're going to have to replace because it's a very, very old pressure stat. But the rest of the machine, I think, can be polished up. Obviously, I need to replace gaskets, and there's a new sight glass, and I'll need a new gauge here. But I think we're going to be able to get the machine back up and running pretty good. So that's where we are today.